First reading in the Acts of the Apostles, Paul leaves Athens and moves to Corinth and meets there a Jew named Aquila and his wife Priscilla, who, though a native of Pontus, come from Italy because Claudius, the emperor, had ordered all Jews to leave Rome. And again, it is a striking reminder about the very real historicity of Scripture, of the Bible, of the Acts of the Apostles, the writing of St. Luke here, how this is very much talking about real events in our world. These are not just myths made up, but these are things that actually happened. And we do have other historical sources speaking about how in about the year 49 or 50 AD, how the emperor kind of got fed up with the fighting amongst the Jews over Christus, over the Christ, and expelled the Jews from Rome. And, again, this tells us a number of things. One, it tells us about what time frame this was in the life of Paul, but it also reminds us that there was probably at this point already in Rome a pretty significant number of Jews who had become followers of Christ, who would point to Jesus as the Christ, the Messiah. And apparently plenty of other Jews who rejected that idea and assumed anybody who believed that was basically denying their Jewish faith. And so there was conflict and tension and perhaps even violence or whatever other types of lawsuits or appeals to the governor for all of these different things. And the emperor just gets fed up and says, "You're all leaving Rome." And it was maybe somewhat effective in Rome, but not for very long, as things changed quickly after that as well. But it is a striking reminder that that church in Rome is founded fairly early and having some impact there as in other places where Paul goes to visit. Even in the midst of persecution, even in the midst of conflict with the Jews and the Romans and the emperor himself, the faith is planted and it continues to grow. St. Paul goes to Corinth, which was known as a town kind of like Vegas, full of debauchery, full of sinful people. It was not seen as a place or a bastion of religion or faith or hope or anything like this. He goes there because there are a fair number of Jews living in Corinth and working there. And he goes to preach to them. And as we hear, he is pretty much rejected. And so in frustration, he says, "Your blood be on your heads. I will go to the Gentiles." And those Gentiles in this town known with a sinful reputation are convinced, receive the Spirit, receive faith. And Corinth becomes a town with many Christians. We don't always know exactly how God is going to act. And it might seem at times like we are in the midst of the worst time in the church or in all these difficulties or all these other struggles. Our history itself reminds us that these same things have been happening since the very beginning. And that no matter how difficult things might be, even if the governor were to kick all Catholics out of Minnesota, that God can still work and that faith can still be shared and converts can still be made. If we have that same attitude of St. Paul to the Gentiles, of St. Peter in Rome, as we continue to proclaim Christ, Christus, crucified, died, and risen for us.